do help create the perfect conditions to breed high levels of smog. But the emissions we create are the main ingredient of this type of air pollution. What you do on a daily basis does make a difference. So help us reduce harmful emissions by living a healthy air life and thinking about where you can reduce your pollution-producing activities. We must leave no stone unturned when searching for ways to clean our valley's air and protect public health. For a list of ideas on how you can help, visit healthyairliving.com. That's healthyairliving.com. This has been your Healthy Air Living Report from the Valley Air District.
KXVS 92.1 coming soon. KXVS.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Connie O'Day, and I should say Lion Connie O'Day from the Stockton San Joaquin Lions Club here in Stockton, California. And we are District 4A1. I'm hoping to hear from all of you out there and let me know who it is that's listening to us and find out what you're doing so we can talk about it here on our station. And I would like to remind the people in District 4A1 that November 11th and 12th is our district meeting. And it will be in Columbia. So I hope a lot of you will be able to be there. And it's going to be an exciting meeting. And it's so beautiful up there in that country right now, in our motherlode country. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of you. And I'd sure like to know what some of your other districts out there are doing. And I would like to give a shout out here on our station about what you're doing. So if you could contact me on my Facebook page, which is Connie Flolo-O'Day. It's spelled FLOLO-O'Day, which is ODEA. And you'll come to my Facebook page, and there you can leave a message to me about your club and what you're doing. And especially the clubs that are all over the world, outside the United States, in Hawaii, in Canada, India, Paris, in South America. We would love to find out what you're doing so we can talk about it over the YouTube, which is going to everybody in the world. So please get your information into me, all right? And I also would like to share with you that my club, last Thursday, here in Stockton, our police department has a very large department of chaplains that work with the policemen. They work with the community, with schools, and they had a fundraiser this last Thursday, and our club was there to help with the fundraiser, and it was absolutely a wonderful event. And for those of you who had attended, I'm sure you agree with me that it was a really good event. Chaplain Jesse, who is the senior chaplain at the Stockton Police Department, was in charge. He and his wife did an absolutely wonderful job, and it was a great event. Now, tomorrow here in Stockton, I don't know if in some of your other cities, Sunday was White Cane Day. And so being that blindness is one of our projects for this centennial, the Blind Center here in Stockton, California is having a White Cane Day walk and fundraiser. So we're all meeting at one particular park, Caldwell Park, here off of the Miracle Mile here in Stockton. And everyone will be walking up the Miracle Mile to Werlo's restaurant. Werlo's is a very supportive restaurant and company for the Lions here in our district. And they are going to be having a fundraiser there. 20% of every meal ticket is going to go to the Blind Center. So it's a wonderful event. I hope you're having your events in your cities and communities too for White Cane Day. Now, today I have a very special guest with us. The guest is Ken Volonte. Ken is the Vice President of the San Joaquin County chapter of the National Federation of the Blind. So I'd like to introduce you now all to Ken. Ken?
Hi, everybody.
Okay.
Good to see you.
I'm going to put your mic a little bit closer to you.
There we go.
Ken
How's
has
that
a
for
very
level?
nice, soft voice.
Okay.
So, Ken, can you please tell us what is the National Federation of the Blind? What is it, the main purpose of it and the characteristics of it?
The purpose of the National Federation of the Blind is to be really an agency for collective action. If something is going wrong in terms of legislatures or in terms of community programs, the National Federation of the Blind can bring people together, just together, to work for or against programs that we deem to be for or against us. We started in 1940. It was a meeting of 7 states, and our founder was Dr. Jacobus Tenbrook. He was a constitutional lawyer, and our meetings tend to be more, I would say, more political than social. We do have some social events, but we tend to be more political than social, because there are still children who are not giving the chance to learn Braille. There are still blind parents who have their children taken away from them simply because they are blind.
Now, how does that happen? Why is that happening?
It may be as simple as a neighbor not understanding how blind people can raise children and calling social services for no reason at all. And social services comes out, has the same set of beliefs that the well-meaning neighbor has, and just like that, the children are out of the home.
So what kind of beliefs would that be? That are you familiar with any of the beliefs that people who, like you were talking about, the neighbor would call social services? What is the issue that they're presenting?
The issue is probably one of competence. They just don't know that there are alternate ways of raising children if you can't see. For example, if you have bells on everyone's feet, you'll know around the house where everyone is and where each child is, because each bell will sound different.
Well, that's good.
Yes.
So that's one of the ways of when you are blind to be able to know where your children are. Mm-hmm. And what are some of the other obstacles in raising children?
The biggest one that I have heard of is a child who is not given a chance to learn Braille. Braille is a very eloquent language of 6 dots that it's how we read. And if you are a blind child and you have only a little bit of vision, they will say, well, you have enough vision that you don't need to learn Braille. We don't need to hire a special resource teacher.
So that's what some of the schools say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And think about this for a minute. If your child was blind,
right,
and went to school and graduated the 8th grade, let's say, and could neither read nor spell, because if you can't read, if you don't have a language to read with, you can't spell. How would you feel about it as a parent?
I would be very upset about that. Okay. I would be advocating for special education or for Braille reading, Braille being taught.
Indeed so.
Now here in Stockton, do you find that there's any problems in the schools for blind children? Blind students?
Not in Stockton, but over in Linden, there's a little boy that's the fellow of whom I'm speaking, that is having enormous troubles.
He has what?
Enormous trouble.
Oh, enormous trouble. Right. Okay.
Due to the fact that he is not being given Braille instruction. He has been given some technology, but he can't use it because he doesn't have enough vision to use it, and it gives him headaches. And so that makes him dislike reading, because for him reading is painful.
Oh my goodness. So then in the schools where we have blind children, then we need to have teachers or special ed teachers that are familiar with the issues of blind children. Is that right?
Yes, indeed. And it would be a good thing if some of those teachers, maybe all of those teachers, it would be a good thing if they were blind or visually impaired also, because they would provide a role model for success. It's one thing to be taught and told that you can do anything you want to by a sighted person. It is another thing altogether to be told that you can be anything you want to be by a person who has a real live 9-to-5 job with the government or with some agency that you know about and care about. It's an enormous boost for kids, and that's why I'm looking forward so much to the upcoming convention of the National Federation of the Blind. Our convention is from November 4th to 7th at the Embassy Suites Hotel in Milpitas.
Oh, in Milpitas,
So
that's close.
It's close.
Yeah,
It's close.
that's good.
So if any of you are parents of blind children, or if you are a blind person yourself, it's from, I think, November 4th to 7th.
That is
running
that a
out.
national convention?
This is a state convention.
A state convention for California. So if they went on the internet for the state convention, California State Convention of the National Federation of the Blind, they would find the registration and information?
Our website is nfbcal.org/convention, and there you go. You'll be right there.
Fantastic. That's great. And I imagine you're going.
I plan on going.
Good.
I don't know. I've been running out of energy and not feeling well the last few weeks. But if I'm at all able, I will be there because it recharges my battery.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I wanted to ask you now, who is on the board of directors or on the boards for the National Federation of the Blind in the different communities?
There is a national board which is elected at convention, and then there are state boards, and then there are local boards, and these boards exist to sort of oversee the federation, make sure that we spend our money correctly and don't overspend or spend on frivolous things. And so that is the board's primary function.
Now, I understand that members of local chapters and state affiliates and nationwide divisions, all of the members must be blind. Is that correct?
No, the only stricture is that to be a president or a vice president, well, I think that's the only two, you have to be legally blind. Otherwise, everyone is welcome. If you're a dues-paying member and you are a person of goodwill toward blind people and what we stand for, if you believe in what we stand for. And there is another consumer agency out there whose beliefs are a bit different, just a bit different, but some people believe one way and some people believe another way. But anyway, the only stricture is if you're the president or the vice president. You have to be legally blind.
Legally blind. And then you have an organization of parents of blind children. Is that correct?
That's right.
National.
It's the National Parents of Blind Children. They have an excellent magazine called Future Reflections, which take up matters of schooling of blind children and what's coming down the pike, what technologies are there, bumps in the road to look for, and so yeah, their publication is Future Reflections.
So, like what you were saying about a lot of times people around you or in your neighborhood don't understand how a blind parent can raise their children, or how sighted parents can raise their blind children. And you gave quite a few good examples. And it's important to for the community, I think, to understand as much as possible about the world of blind people, and what you do to learn to function as a blind person. Now, when I was looking up a lot of information about the National Federation of the Blind, they have a saying that refers to themselves like, we Lions, our motto is we serve, and that's what we do. We serve. Well, the National Federation of the Blind refers to itself as the voice of the nation's blind. And so how do you want to explain how that is, that you are the voice of the nation's blind?
We are essentially the trade union of blind people. The relationship between, let us say, the Community Center for the Blind and its blind clients is very much like the sometimes adversarial relations between management and labor. In the end, what you want as a member of NFB, what you want is for things to be better for people. We, as I said, I think in the beginning of the show, we function as an agency for collective action, as in collective bargaining and so forth. Okay.
And when you talk about legislation, are you lobbying for certain laws or certain regulations with the federal government or state government?
Yes, it changes from year to year, but we always go to Washington to meet with our congresspeople in early February. And last year we dealt a lot with Social Security and issues of transportation.
Right.
This year, it looks like we're going to be dealing a lot with self-driving cars.
Self-driving cars?
And the reason that we're dealing with them is not a trivial one. We're dealing with this issue because self-driving cars, as they are presently made, are silent. And so you would have absolutely no way of knowing that you were, dangerously close to a car as you were, starting across the street. Now, you might count on that car's automatic braking system, but who knows? We believe that it's better if the self-driving electric car makes a noise of some sort to let us know that it's close to you.
Oh, so what you're saying is, so
Right.
who are blind would know by a sound that the car was next to you or near you.
And it doesn't.
Well, that makes sense.
It doesn't have to be a big vroom vroom thing. And I know that they're trying to make the cars as quiet as possible. All it has to be is a little fan or something mounted in where the engine would go, doing a gentle little whir.
Well,
that would be sufficient.
Yeah. Definitely, especially, and also that would also affect people hard of hearing, because there's a lot of people out in our communities, they're not blind, but they're hard of hearing, they don't have hearing aids, and not being able to hear a car coming, you know,
So
that
it's-
makes a lot of sense.
So it's safer for everybody, is our opinion. And so we decided that we would work on this, being as how we were working with Marquette University in the development of
Right.
autonomous cars.
So you're going to be lobbying for that then? You say in February is when you go to Washington?
Yes.
Oh, very good.
And there is a piece of legislation called the AV Smart Act.
AV Smart Act. Okay. And what is that?
And I don't know what the acronym for SMART is. I had it in front of me once, but people are very hip on acronyms now. So
Well, before you leave, you let me know what it is, and I'll bring it up next week, and so that we can get the full information, and so that those out there who want to advocate can start advocating with their own congressman for this. Okay?
it would be greatly appreciated, and
Definitely.
I'll give you a call.
That sounds great. Now, tell me a little bit more about what the National Federation of the Blind does for students.
We provide scholarships, state scholarships, and then national scholarships are up to $5,000, and
Excellent.
they're based on merit, and they're based on our meeting with applicants and talking to them and judging the cut of their jib and so forth. But I myself got 2 scholarships when I was going to the university. So
Fantastic. So these are scholarships for high school students to go on to college.
and also for people who are looking to get secondary degrees like masters that are in college but they're looking to go further.
Excellent.
So,
that's wonderful.
So that's what we do.
Now, a question that I have is, I've done a lot of reading about how blind people learn to use their cane or get trained by using an assistive dog. Can you give me or tell the audience out here how you get that type of training?
Yes, there are a couple of ways, and it depends on how your parents choose to bring you up. There are schools for the blind in which you are immersed in Braille and mobility and the white cane and all things blind. And then there are public schools where kids like I went to public school. And the advantage in public schools, I believe, is that I can tell a person who went to a blind school because they never quite trust people with sight. It's always us against them. Whereas I went to public school, sighted kids were my best friends.
So
And
why
so-
would they want to instill us against them?
It's an unfortunate consequence that's left over from 100 years ago, and it just hasn't gone away as quickly as we thought that it would. As to my specific training with the use of a cane, that happened for me when I was in high school. Second period PE, Tuesdays and Thursdays, my mobility instructor would show up and we would walk a route, like maybe to my house or to a local store, or just to find out how things worked in the neighborhood and thus in the general world. So we learned about intersections and lining up with curbs and so forth.
And you used a cane to do that?
And we used a cane.
Okay.
The reason, you were talking to me earlier, the reason that the cane is so much longer than the wooden cane with the crooked handle that,
Right.
that the lions have, that cane is fine for balance. But you need a longer cane because you're arcing to the left and right as you walk. You know, you have, as you take a right step, you arc to the left to see
Right.
what's immediately in front of you. Okay, so the longer the cane, the greater the distance that you can see, that you can feel in front of you. And so that's why they're different lengths. Ideally, and this is a difference from when I went to school. When I went to school, they used to say that if the cane went up to your sternum, it was long enough for you. Now, they say it's got to go up to your nose. And so things change and times change. Now, for my faithful friend Edison down here, who hasn't had a chance to say 2 words.
That's his assistive dog, a wonderful animal.
That's my guide dog. Now, things have slightly changed in training now, but when I was first getting a guide dog, your first dog, you would go to a residential school for 4 weeks, and then for all successive dogs, you would go for either 2 or 3 weeks, just depending on how you were doing with your training. That has changed too, because now they're offering 2-week classes for everybody, and they're also offering, and this is an exciting part for me, they're offering domiciliary training.
And what is that?
And that's where they train you in your home.
Oh.
They bring you a dog, and you can see and the advantage is that being at your home, you can see at a dog's natural fail points if it's going to work or not. There is such a fail point where I live, and every one of my dogs that have not worked have failed at this particular intersection. And
why do you think that happens?
Edison aced it.
He aced it, huh?
He aced it.
Good for Edison.
The reason I think that happens is because some dogs are more confident than others. The dog that I had invested some time in training was a wonderful little dog, but he just didn't work for me. But he was reissued to a woman who lived in Arizona, I believe, and Bryant worked great for her.
So I guess it really is like people to people. Some people you can get really close to and understand and work well with, and then there's some people it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And the same way with the guide dogs.
The match is very important and very mysterious. And the guide dog schools will tell you that they've practiced the mysterious alchemy of guide dog magic, but the reality is these days they don't. And so sometimes you'll go through 1, 2, 3 dogs before you get one that works.
How many have you gone through before you got Edison?
I had one before Edison, and I knew as soon as I touched Edison, I knew that he was going to work. He had a confidence, and I could tell it by when I would put his harness on, he would stop wagging his tail. So he knew that there was a difference. He was in a different world when he was in harness and when he was out of harness.
Oh my gosh.
Bryant didn't have a clue. Bryant, I think, would have been a wonderful signal dog for deaf people. He would have been perfect. But the school, didn't see that in him and didn't put any credence in my words or the words of my classmates. They could see it too.
Well, I understand quite a bit of what you're talking about, because the Lions International, our program for canine companions is for people that need a companion to help them with things. They are not guide dogs, but they're companion dogs. And we have Lion members that raise the dogs while they're still puppies, and then take them to the schools, and then they start training with their new owners. And that's, so I can understand what you're talking about, matching up, because we have the same issues in the companion dogs too, to match them up. And it's amazing how you can just touch an animal and you sense and you know what they're feeling or you're feeling and how you're matching up. That's wonderful. Yeah.
Before we get further afield into other topics, I would like to say one thing to the parents of blind children. Make sure that your child has...
Here's the mic a little bit closer.
Okay. Make sure that your child has toys that are tactile and true to form. In other words, if it's a toy phone, make sure that it feels like a toy phone. And also, blind children have this habit, which is very disturbing to mothers. And let me reassure the mothers. You will walk into a room where your son and daughter is, and they will suddenly stop babbling or playing, and they will just lie perfectly still. And as a parent, you will think, well, there's something wrong, or the child doesn't like me. No, that's not what it is at all. What it is your baby has gotten used to your voice, your movements, and you walk into the room, and the reason he stops or she stops is to listen. What's mom going to do? What's she up to? Am I going to get candy?
Oh, and for goodness sakes.
So that's a kind of a point of clarification that many times gets lost on parents, and I think they do themselves needless suffering and worry. I know my mom did. And so,
well, do we have a parents group for the National Federation for the Blind here in Stockton, California?
I believe we do. I believe it's rather small, but I believe we do have a parents group. Again, look on the nfbcal.org website, and they will give you a list of all of the chapter presidents. And if there's an affiliate of parents of blind children, you will find it there.
Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. That is really interesting. I'm sure there's a lot of you out there that have experienced children and have blind children, and parents that are blind, that some of what Ken has been talking about should give you some ideas, and especially some of us who don't understand totally what blind people and children go through and how they live their lives, and being able to understand one another makes everything so much happier. And I have a friend that she's blind, and she just acts like the way she does everything, it's like she didn't have any sight problems. And sometimes I say, hey, look there, or did you see this, or look at this, and then all of a sudden I realize she is blind. So I have to stop and sometimes apologize, sometimes we laugh. We're very close friends, so we laugh a lot because does everything so well. You know who I'm talking about?
I do.
Yes, and
yes, I do.
It's amazing, but she's taught me a lot about the life of blind people, so much. It's incredible. And Ken, what you're saying here is so much of what our friend has said also. And what interests me is what you're talking about with the children, and the child being quiet to find out, hey, do they know that that's mother walking in? I mean, the sound, would they know the sound of the mother?
Yes, because we learn to identify voices very, very, very young. When we're like 2 or 3, 4 days old, we can identify our mother's voices and our father's. We know the difference between men and women. We know what's going on in the world. We don't know until maybe we're 9 or 10 or 11 how it is that grown-ups can use credit cards and get nifty stuff like flat screen TVs. We don't quite understand that, but yes, we are aware.
That's wonderful. I wanted to I wanted to invite someone else in to join us. Doug, are you out there? Doug Vigil I'm inviting him in. He has a show on after I do. And without his glasses, Doug is blind. and I want him to come and meet Ken.
And it looks like you're running 5 minutes over on
Oh
your
no,
airtime.
no, we have till 3 o'clock, so we're running good. We got plenty of time here.
Okay.
But I also want to take time after Doug comes in and meets you, and he might have a couple of questions for you.
Hello
Here
there.
he is. Hi, Doug.
How you doing?
Hi, Doug.
And this is Ken.
Nice to know you.
Hi, Ken.
Hi.
Jennifer, I'm going to go to the other side.
Come over here so you can be seen in the screen too.
Okay. I'll be right here standing up.
I don't know if the camera's on you.
No,
Oh, there it's on you.
That's
Okay.
Here you go.
Oh yeah, I got papers on the floor.
Yeah, Jennifer always sent me the Saturday Federation meeting on the Cocoon.
At
Cancun.
Cancun restaurant.
Cancun
Yes.
restaurant, second Saturday of every month.
Right.
Is-
So, yeah, I went to the company meeting last couple of years ago, and it was very interesting. And I was wondering, how do you, what make a resource that you have in the community that you offer?
One of the big resources that we offer is that we are one of the only chapters. In fact, I think we're the only chapter in the state with an adaptive technology fund. So,
so what is that?
well, when we first started, there were a lot of students in our chapter, and they weren't getting the technology that they needed from the Department of Rehabilitation. So we developed this fund in order to buy, say, computers with screen readers and magnifiers and such as that, whiteboard magnifiers,
Right.
and so on. And so if you, if any of you out there has a special need that is blindness related, you can write to us. Our web space is going to be amplified. So, but anyway, get in touch with us some kind of way. And
Yeah,
we'll see if we can help
on
you.
the internet, it would be the San Joaquin County of the National Federation of the Blind, and that's where you will find information there for San Joaquin County. But I'm sure if you've got now, do other federation boards, do they have the technology funds?
No, I don't think so, because maybe the need wasn't there. It was just that there were so many of our members that were not being served by the Department of Rehabilitation, who is supposed to buy all this
Yes,
stuff.
they are. They are.
yes.
I've been a client of the Department of Rehab while I was out on workers' compensation from a job and had to change my skills.
Okay.
And a computer, programs, whatever I needed to fulfill whatever my courses were in school, they provided, and they're supposed to provide that. Now, how long ago was that they weren't providing for some of the students?
It must have been about 12 or so years ago when our chapter first started. In fact, I think that was one of the reasons that our chapter kind of started.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
It started when a fellow, actually a fellow named Dave Vigil. Are you any kin to Dave Vigil?
No.
No. Okay. Well,
It's a very common last name.
yeah. Well, this fella called me and he said, is there some kind of life that's better than just sitting at the blind center? And I said, well, as it happens, there's a whole world out there. And so Dave came and liked what he saw, and other people came and liked what they saw, and we now have two people, one of whom works for the Internal Revenue Service in Vallejo,
Wow.
and one of whom works as an accessibility coordinator for Apple.
Oh, wonderful.
That's awesome.
So
So this organization is all, I know when they say come to mind when they say National Confederation of the Blind. It's almost like it's like a political organization. You know, it's like you talk about different things. And
they advocate
very much so.
You do? Oh, okay.
Yeah, Ken was talking about in February is when they go to Washington, D.C., and they lobby for different issues that they're concerned about for the blind.
So they don't need to go lobby in Washington. They need to go lobby in Sacramento. They don't know nothing here about what our existence here. They're too
well, he's so funny all the time. Well, but that's true. That a lot of our legislators are not aware of disabilities. I can remember when I worked for a union and we lobbied, this is over 10 years ago, we were lobbying in Sacramento for a new law that would allow more money to be left in the Department for Disability Services. And it was this department that provides the income and the services for all of our regional centers, like Valley Mountain Regional here in San Joaquin County. And so we had hundreds of people with disabilities, people who were blind and people who were in wheelchairs and mothers with their children and everything. We would lobby, we would walk down the hallways, we'd talk to senators and legislators. And actually this one bill, it got past all the houses, and when it got to Governor Schwarzenegger's desk at the time, he vetoed it. And that was so sad, and I hope that they continue with the legislation. You have to, right, Ken? You have to
it's
bring awareness.
It's a constant fight. You got that, Minaj? Get on the stick.
But it's kind of interesting that, because like you said, Ken, like when it comes to the Department of Rehabilitation, which I'm very aware of it too, they cut back on the fund they had, so that when you ask for something, you have to ask specific. They will not tell you what they want to give you. You have to really ask for those.
Right, you do.
Because
you do.
What you don't know is they hold the money in.
Well, whatever is needed for. I speak very well of the Department of Rehab because they've been very good to me. I would have to show what I needed to succeed in what education I was doing, and they provided.
Right.
But I had to show what I needed. They just didn't give me anything, but it had to be shown, and then they provided it and helped me all the way.
Yeah, because I know that the department they have more fun in the blind program than other sorts of disability.
Oh, really?
Good.
Well, that's good.
Is they need for the reading, they have to have the fact to be self-sufficient and everything else going on.
Right.
They take a really a good stand on that. They have a very good advocate on the blind.
Now, I want to say to everyone out there that Ken is also a poet. Ooh. And he's written some poetry, and he reads Braille, and are you leaving us?
Yes, because I'm gonna have to check on my dog.
Okay, you got your little friend too.
I'm gonna need you after my show.
Okay.
Bye,
Doug's coming on after we're done here. But Ken has written some poetry, and I looked at his binder where his poetry is, and it's all in Braille. He knows to read Braille and has done very well. So if you want to read your poetry to us.
Okay, here is one poem which kind of explains a little bit, I hate to use the word, but the world of blindness. And it is a little different. And we see things from a little different point of view. This poem is called Mark. When first I met her, there was an attraction, though not from your reasons. True, she was gracious enough. True, her speaking voice was beautiful. I thrilled in her presence because I could see the way she could hear the way a blind man feels. Everything. This is my body. Once, while describing an open-air market in India, she stopped mid-sentence to ask, when I say that something is a certain color, Do you attach any significance to the color or to the way I see the object? Her perception is quite refreshing. By this simple question, she exists within the potentiality and lexicon of my body. From screwy, comfortable guilt of comfort, you found my blindness to be in bizarre taste. Its flavor, like the acid salt of a dead battery, bloomed and gave to your palate a fine tang of faintly scented urine. You reached for medicine to wash it down, saying, I know that in a few years, man, with all that they're doing, you'll be able to see. But this is my body. So that's one of my...
You want to read one more of your poems, please? That would be wonderful. That was beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This one might get a little close to the bone because it deals with an uncomfortable subject, but that's such is the realm of poets sometimes.
That's right.
This is called Sean Among the Garbage. She hated her parents for saying that Dave was a bum and being right. She hated her husband because he was responsible for getting her like this. She hated her doctors, all of them, even that woman. She was nothing. She was fresh meat, a shoulder, a flank, rank and awash in her own piss and bowels. She hated the pain and the blood and the lights and the humiliation. And when the time came, she hated the baby. And then she hated herself. Sean plays war among the garbage because there's nowhere else to go. And who will love or even notice Sean? Will the Siamese cat love him? Will the garbage love him? Will the Virgin Mary, who loves all children, love him? He is very small, but his voice cuts a keen and strident figure, like Mommy's. We talk on my way out. You again, right? Me again. You going to the store? Sean helpfully removes several enemy soldiers from my path. On the way back, you again, right? He takes the time to pet my guide dog. Right now, Nash is his only friend. Sean opens a place in his heart for him. Nash licks away his tears. Nash licks away his tears with a thorough tongue. And perhaps our visit is the best thing that will happen to Sean today.
That's beautiful. And you wrote that?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Actually, it was written in two parts. When it was first written, it ended after, after the mommy section, and then I was reading it one day, and I said, there's something wrong with this poem. And then I heard Sean's voice in my head. You again, right? All right. This guy needs to be paid some attention to. And so I wrote the next section of the poetry.
Oh my gosh. That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Okay, well, listen, Ken, I want to thank you so much for coming today. And I'm sure all of you out there has learned a lot of things about the blind, and there's so much more to learn and to understand. And I hope you come back on my show again. Bring your poetry and bring your knowledge.
I will.
That would be wonderful.
And thank you, Connie, for having me. It was a real pleasure.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay.
And thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.